on a big ship that has some serious issues. Okay, speaking of issues, this is from my producer, issue 2. What was the issue again? Issue 2. We all read on Saturday about some development bank that we all paid for, I guess 9 years ago, to the tune of $2 million at least of our tax dollars that have gone into this thing. Its job was to, well, I'm not the best explaining this. I've read it several times. I'm not good at this financial stuff. However, it sounds as though, Loren, correct me if I'm wrong, this was set up by the city with a private partner, a Toronto bank, essentially, right, to invest, buy up, properties in downtown Hamilton, redevelop them, a lot of money. To stimulate growth. To stimulate growth, but we put the $2 million in, but we don't own any of it, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, and we have no oversight on it, correct? Correct. And the only connection we have to it tangentially, if you will, is that the person at the city staff who works on downtown development is an officer on their board? Is that as you read it?
That is my understanding as well.
So we don't own this thing, don't control this thing, put $2 million of our tax dollars into it. They haven't done much with it. And here's the way the Spectator sums it up, if we can pull that, because it was their investigation. After 9 years in existence with just one stalled project, that's that kidding mill or that mill? Yes. Knitting mill?
Yes, knitting mill.
In Beasley, with just one stalled project to its credit, does the city consider the Hamilton Realty Capital Corporation a success? Question to the city staff. And the staff spokesperson says, that depends on the definition of success when you measure it. When have I heard that before, Loren? That depends on the definition of is. Does that remind you of a certain president?
I think the only saving grace on the city's communication officer there would be the little caveat that she threw in when. And with the quote including when means that this project isn't complete until it's complete. And perhaps it will spur some offshoots and growth. I understand that 9 years sounds like a long time.
Especially because it was a 10-year plan initially, right? I mean, aren't they come cresting into the last year? And like 2016 is when they were supposed to have this thing, at least this project done?
I think, though, that this Realty Corporation Development Bank thing
yes.
Was created in a very different financial environment than exists now for our downtown. We have all kinds of developers doing all kinds of things within the boundaries of city programs and normal financing that maybe didn't, the landscape wasn't as open and as sunny as it is now, 9 years ago, for sure.
So one of the things that struck me in this article is the fact that the cost of the city to look at the project in terms of the remediation of the soil, etc., costs more than what they spent to buy the property. And when questioned about, well, was there a lack of due diligence prior to this, they said there was sort of a rush to purchase to stave off demolition. So really they didn't do that work, and now, and I would say, okay, I get that happens, except for, you remember the whole thing with the Lister restaurant on the corner, and staff didn't do their due diligence before pumping money into that either, right? It gets a little hard to keep seeing this kind of stuff. So do you think that there's anything nefarious going on with this, Loren? Is this taking taxpayer cash without much accountability, or is this just a stalled project, or what's going on?
No, I wouldn't call it nefarious, but I would call it a failure.
It depends on your definition of failure is.
Well, it's been a failure in the first 9 years of its existence.
And when it's a failure, when is it?
I get that.
I'm just having fun.
Of course, and all that's well and good. But I think the intention was true. I think that it was a nifty idea, but sometimes you swing and you miss. And this looks like, a $2 million miss on a $200,000 piece of property that hasn't done anything except get a little moldier in the last 9 years.
And pay less taxes to the city than it did before.
Pay no taxes. Now the city pays the taxes on it as it owns it.
So I would qualify that as a failure to this point, but maybe we can pull it out. My question to you is, if the Spectator hadn't done the investigation on this, would we ever hear about it from council?
We did hear a lot about this at the creation.